So let's give some congratulations. As yesterday, we got word that Max Fried, who won, I believe, his third gold glove yesterday, and of course, the guy that we told you months ago, Dansby Swanson, won his first gold glove. Now, Dansby got robbed in 2020. If you go look during the pandemic year, the 60-game pandemic season, he got robbed of the gold glove. If you look at all the metrics and everything, defensive wars and errors and range factors and everything you want to use for baseball analytics and metrics about defense and all that stuff, Dansby got robbed in 2020. He should have been the gold glove winner that season. And I think, and I may be wrong, you can correct me, but I think it was Javi Baez that ended up winning the gold glove that year, I think for the Cubs, but Dansby was robbed in 2020. So I really thought, even in the early part of the year, and we predicted this on the show and talked about it, that Dansby was going to win the gold glove this year. He played outstanding defense. And I think toward the end of the year, few of those plays that he made late in some of those series just kind of solidified the idea of it. So look, you know what that means? You know what adding a gold glove to your resume in your free agent season means? Cha-ching. You add more money to all of it, right? Adding more money to what Dansby Swanson's contract is going to be. And look, this is going to come to a head pretty quickly here, right? We just had game 3 of the World Series last night. So we're not, the World Series, assuming it doesn't rain out 3 or 4 more times, this will be over in a week. And then we'll be getting ready for baseball's offseason. Believe it or not, as you look at the calendar, we're in November. We're not very far away from when we get into winter meetings and all that good kind of stuff. So this is going to come down quickly. And this is just another notch for Dansby to add into his, hey, this is what my value is. He's now a 25 homer gold glove shortstop, nearly 100 RBI, nearly 100 runs scored. I mean, again, 99 runs scored shortstop. There ain't many of those guys running around Major League Baseball. There ain't a whole list of those guys that are out there. And I get everybody wants, because you see Michael Harris or you see Strider, they don't sign these contracts, and Ozzie and everybody like that. This Braves payroll situation is going to be fascinating because, look, I've said before, I do think they will find a way that Dansby will be here. I think they're going to have him somewhere in that maybe like $20 to $24 million per season range. I don't think it'll get over maybe about 23, 24 million average per year, but I think 20 is your starting number. And I get he wants to be here, and I get he's the hometown kid, and I get that, he's, he's one of their cornerstones and all that stuff, but I don't get the sense Dansby wants to play for free. All of the things that happened this year, right? The run production, the RBI, the home run, stealing a career high in bases, and now you add a gold glove on top of all of that. It's get paid time for him. And, he's played through the rookie contract. He's played through the arbitration years and all that stuff. Remember, this year was an arbitration year for Dansby. I want to say 10.5 or $11 million is what his arbitration number was. So he's navigated through all of those waters. This is not about buying out his last couple of arbitration years and, like they did with Riley, buy out in the last couple of years and then give him a really nice deal. This is about, hey, brother, I'm about to hit the open market and I can go cash in for all of this. But again, I'll say that I think he's going to stay with the Atlanta Braves. I think when all is said and done, that unlike the Freddie situation, remember, they have the same agent. But again, Freddie may have fired his agent by now and all that stuff, but Dansby went in with the same agent that Freddie Freeman has. I don't think that there's any ill will if you listen to what Alex Anthopoulos has said about this situation. But if they lose Dansby, do they go ahead and lock up Max Fried? Because whatever the Dansby situation is, the next guy that they have to start having those conversations about is Max Fried. The guy who's the best left-hander in baseball, the ace of this staff, and a guy that's coming into his prime years, and a guy that does nothing but win for this organization. Yeah, I know he stunk it up in the Philadelphia series. I got news for you. Everybody stunk it up in the Philadelphia series. He was one of 12 guys that stunk it up in the Philadelphia series. So just put him in a long list of those guys out there. But he's the next guy that's about to get that massive buyout. And he's got, I think, 2 years of arbitration. Got 2 years left. So if he goes arbitration this year, he got a nice bump in arbitration. He'll get another nice bump, but he's the next guy. And I wouldn't be surprised that if they lose Dansby, if they end up losing Dansby, if Max Fried isn't the next guy that they go ahead and lock up to. Because really at this point, you know, there isn't a whole lot left of your core that you got to worry too much about, right? I don't think you really have to do anything with Contreras right now. Darno's got one more year. Expect him to be back next year. And I've said, I think after next year, they will flip Darno and Contreras, where Contreras will take over as the starting catcher. Darno will be the backup, and they'll keep him around here because they like all the intangibles and everything that Travis. And look, nothing bad about Travis Darno. I hope he stays around until he's done playing. You know, Travis Darno feels like one of those guys who could be a manager at some point, right? So I think that flips in the next year or so. And you've got most of your staff that's locked up, right? I mean, I don't think they're too worried about Kyle Wright right now, but Strider signed another year of Morton and things like that. So if they don't keep Dansby around, I expect then they will break off some money because, again, Max Fried's going to be another one of those guys that he ain't coming for free. You're the best left-hander in baseball. You're a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. You're going to go out and get every dollar that you possibly can. So good for both of those guys. They both deserve it. Max Fried is an outstanding, it's too bad we don't get to see Max Fried hit anymore. Would love to see that. I'm not the biggest fan in the world of DH. I'm an old school guy. I like the idea of the pitcher hitting, even if it is a free out. But again, Max Fried wasn't a free out. But for a guy in Dansby who got robbed a couple of years ago of his Gold Glove opportunity, and 2020 was the egregious year. He should have been the Gold Glove winner that year. And I know the 60-game pandemic and all that, but it had nothing to do with how good Dansby was defensively that year. So I was glad to see that Dansby got his due. And brother, you could not have scripted, if you're a major league player, a better way to have your walk year in free agency go for all of this. You could not have come up with a better way with the power, the steals, the average, the defense, the runs scored, everything. This feels like the ultimate Jeff Blauser situation. Remember when Jeff Blauser had his career year? I think Dansby's a better player, but I'm just saying, remember, Jeff Blauser in his walk year had like the ultimate career year for the Atlanta Braves. I'll give Dansby credit, man. He finally got his due defensively. And one thing about the Gold Glove is once this starts, you usually start to roll off several of these. All right, we'll remind you that as you're listening to Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery and making it your first listen, your next listen should be Locked On Sports Today. Check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on our Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast from. Check out Locked On Sports Today as part of the Locked On Network.